been a long time. You want the full story? Check out episode 9 of Tales of Roleplay. All the same, a quick recap for the first campaign I'm doing, Phylon. If you've been keeping up, we got to some inner-city gang fights with the Black Turnips gang and the Hatchets, the latter of which kidnapped a brother of our latest employer for our special brand of justice. We got him and his friends out of whatever jail or prison they were being held in, took down a fellow monk class, one leader of the Hatchet's gambling house in Sado. Our artificer in said house met and made an enemy with an elf royal type that wanted some fancy artifact, being all rich white elf supremacist about this artifact being in filthy human hands. Tales oldest first edition, I'd wager. I'll take Tolkien. We freed some people. One got eaten by what can only be described as this city's boogeyman and a massive creature of massive teeth, known only to us as the Gullet. We chased that off, but not before it spat around our paladin's fancy trinket or badge or something. Racing back to our hotel, a few more non-combatants died, including one very important one from a noble house that we had to get rid of before we too became criminals. Even as the strongest of us refers to our group as the Time Lords. After all that, one of the turnips offers us a white one of peace. What does that mean exactly? Well, not only is it a peace offering, but a summons to meet with their leader at a public place like a park or fountain type place. So we ditch the body, leader in question, we meet more spooky, scary stuff. Old woman who looks kinda humanish but heavily cloaked. Like we saw a pigeon go in her general area and only feathers come out. This old woman heard of us after battling one of her children, the Gullet. She mentions his name is Mortimer. Apologizes for his actions. Such a big eater. Ate a whole wagon full of people once. Well, they were teasing and pointing first. Don't poke the bear, especially when it has that giant row of teeth. The old woman wants us to go under the city with Mortimer's help. Yeah, Mortimer's going to be a temporary party member to help us retrieve a powerful item/artifact being guarded in a dwarven underground city. Phylon not too keen on doing things for clearly more aberrations that can't have any good intentions with this artifact whatsoever. Especially considering all the shit that went down with Zazim and freaky mollusk/mind flayer people. I don't even know what hired us exactly, but not happy about it, but I'm with the strongest people I know, so we're off to fight some dwarves at the front gate of a long bridge. Only 2 of them, though. After we deal with them, it's soon made clear we're not the only ones down here for that artifact. I think actually before that, we found out Mortimer is actually terrified of bats, so we got to deal with a horde of them. Just the monk summon alone, the 2D whatever force damage by summoning the arms is enough to drop a whole swarm. Mortimer, head down, all shrieking. Then we get rid of the bats. Oh, it's in my hair, it's in my hair. Or what constitutes that massive having here. It's just this kind of like Swamp Thing meets Treant looking kind of action figure for that thing. So we deal with the bats, then the dwarves. We venture further in and down a flight of stairs, monk doing the wall run thing. Getting in a flanking position to shut at what turns out to be the same archers that slew the old man and fancy house lord back in episode 9. So now we really gotta get this artifact for ourselves. So, touch of revenge, dispatch them quite handedly, so we're all raring to go, fully rested and barrel-chested for the final part of this trip to the bottom. That fancy elf the artificer made an enemy of has gathered up some fellow elves and a whole slew of dwarven slaves to open this door down at the bottom. So we fight them, the dwarves, and meanwhile they get the gate open where the artifact is said to be. But it's also guarded by this white flesh golem or something of that size/nature. Very big figure. I keep saying action figures. very big, again, I'm not sure if it was like I think in flesh golem, but it could have been just like something hold together, but it's all like really pasty white for some reason. I'm a little fuzzy on things. This was months ago that I'm trying to recall. We have a bit harder time having to fight both the elves, led by the main one who's also quite adept at magic, and the guardian itself. So we got a... Last tough boss fight was finished with artifact procuring either through breaking or obtaining. Time sorted up fighter gets to the thing itself. Rest of us managed to drop the elves and creature. We take the artifact and cliffhanger. Yes, the last thing, the party's time before we switched over to the circus setting. Which, considering how quickly I wrap this up, I can, ladies and gentlemen, Dendock and friends. This has also been a while, so if you want the full story for this, check out episode 10 of Tales of Roleplay. And yes, this will be up separately on its own, for episode 11. Let's do a quick recap here. Dendock, gladiatorial swashbuckling goblin, gets to expand his horizons as part of a traveling circus. But before our first big performance, we find our ringmaster lying motionless and chewed up by possibly rats and venomous snakes. But the show must go on, as the ringmaster's wife tells us. We deal with some of the rattier aspects of the crowd while we put on a show and earn our living. After the show, we deal with vipers to myriads to fairies and finally a rat shaman. We stop any more casualties to our fellow circus folk, and now we're caught up to the present. After our dispatching of said rat shaman, her ROUS, and a swarm, we finally are able to either bury or give up said ringmaster's body to the proper authorities that of the mayor of this town we're in, called Alberton, which is where we set up camp. And with the sheriff missing, the active deputy, I guess, is on orders of the mayor, seeing, well, you guys kicked ass. This party knows how to handle itself. Deputize the whole party. And sets us on side quests throughout the city, 4 in all, and with time we might only have enough for 2 of them. Well, we've done 2 so far. The first one was this old water mill. Someone said they heard something fishy going down. The people who run that mill have not been seen or heard from in quite a while, so we investigate, come across the place, looking really disheveled and maybe ransacked. Big place, too. Side garden didn't yield anything before we can head to the second floor for more investigations. We come across this giant wasp hive. If only one of us was an orchid man. Is orchid still around, or am I showing my age again with that comment? All of us taking our first licks on these wasps. Friggin' medieval means to fight another situation of one unusual size, one swarm. Something we could probably set fire to, all things considered, but we are looking for survivors, so we can't just cut and run. We beat them down, slay them, we continue our search, we find a dresser falling down in much more mayhem. Something clearly going on here. We strength up and pull the dresser upright. Inside is kind of like those monsters that were in the water getting stones, the myriads, but this one's a smaller, weaselly looking thing. Instead of spitting water, it spits sand. And there's a pile of sand in the dresser as it spills out. I think it's made its home or nest in that thing, and it was just kind of fight it for a little while. This one just takes off towards some other area. Last thing we see before we leave, there's all these childlike drawings on the walls of this place. All of them creatures, some we recognize through stories, some we've already fought. Say, more weirdness going down here. Again, the whole thing of, I think nature is pissed and it's just trying to fight against the modernization of the world. And Mother Nature's taking her revenge. We think whoever human was here, possibly a Monpa and a child of some sort with the drawings, they were dragged off not of their choosing. No humans here now, so nothing more to investigate. So let's run over to side quest 2. Rumblings going on in a church/cemetery area. Always scary. We perimeter search. We see 2 masked individuals with shovels working the gravesite. They're like, "Oh, don't get too close. There's a plague." Boring, says the barbarian named Mouse, who's all about doing rather than talking. Dendok falls into this category as well. So, Mouse, Dendok, and our new player, who is a wizard all of her own, go off to look inside the church. Front door is open in a way you would not be able to close all the way properly. Going through the rows, being all sneaky. Dendok on one side, Mouse on the other. Atop the main church portion, or raised platform dais, 1 small creature and 1 larger biped. They look sylvan in nature, trees and such, so I'm gonna cut around. Attack the small one is Dendok. Mouse runs full on fighting the big guy. Now, rest of the party would have followed suit had I not learned later on, I left to use the bathroom and came back, our detective, Clownumbo, once again, as you'd expect, I forget if I mentioned that or not, it's been so long, apparently didn't get the answers from the 2 masked grave diggers he was looking for and punches one in the face. But apparently he was onto something, because these things were, the mask comes off and then it's like a millipede worm or something like sticking out of these guys' mouths. They weren't warning them of the plague. I think these are the plague. These are these little worm millipedes controlling these humans. So all our magic and lesser hitters dealing with 2 worm people. Man, by the grace of R and Jesus, oh my god, what are the odds of rolling back-to-back nat 20s? And then my next turn was 14 and then a third natural 20. Oh my god. I forget if I mentioned this. You have 3 actions per round. Usually it's move to get in close and then you can an attack. Any other attacks after the one you make, you get a -5 and then a -10 to your roll. Some spells or bigger techniques take 2 or 3 of those actions. All Dendok needs to do is stab things with his rapier, which I think for certain weapons of this variety, it also added something called a deadly D8. So, when I get these nat 20s, which is critical damage, not only am I doing double damage, plus whatever modifiers, which in this case is a D6, so I now 2d6 on a crit hit, and then a flat D8, no damage modifier, to do even more damage. So level 2, tiny swashbuckler doing 20 plus HP of damage. Put the little guy on his last legs, drop him. Then I find out exactly what type of wizard we're dealing with our newest player. I mean, she did negative damage, and heal spells actually harm her, so it's something dark, but no, straight up necromancer. Usually when Dendok kills things, they stay dead. But hey, now we got Dendok, Mouse, and the little guy that I killed, the little monster, working under the necromancer's control to numbers game the big guy. I believe she mentioned it was a shambling zombie type of creature. It can attack and try to pin down and then bite/eat. Basic zombie. You play your Resident Evils, it knocks you over, starts biting at your neck or whatever. But yeah, we're all in this area, so it was right on top. So I didn't have that far to go, or shamble, really. It's just literally just turned around and started gnawing at the big guy. Big guy starts freaking out, trying to bat it away and not even touch us anymore. So we were able to go in and finish that off. I think it's a spell called Reanimate Dead, which is a 2nd level necromancy spell. Just make a skeleton or a zombie. Anyway, big and drops. Necromancy that one up too, and rejoin the rest of our party. We'd have to run even with full move action, which is 75 feet for us. It's because most people get 25 speed. You can move, but again with the reactions you can move. Do a full 75, and that's your whole turn. So we try to rejoin these worm monsters, these body snatcher worms. One of which just peels away and I think explodes the body or just discards it, and just pops out all worm-like. And the Dungeon Master described it as the bug from Men in Black 1, just bursting from its Edgar prison. The act alone is a saving throw or be frightened 1, which is a -1 to AC for a turn until you shake that off. It gets just shit, that shouldn't happen. Really far from us and our new zombie friends to run over there in the 1 turn. One of us who's made a character, but real life situations make it hard to personally play, gets the DM to run that character and just spam healing spells, which was sorely needed. 2 party members on that side went down to 0, which is dying 1, unless either stabilized or saving throw, I think? Unless stabilized, you get out of dying, I believe. But by next turn, the larger zombie makes it to 1 and just engulfs one of the worm things. Other worm about to attack when thunk. Guess who shows up? The Time Lords. 2 parties. 1 campaign? See, that's a cliffhanger worthy to be the season finale of Tales of Roleplay.